What's going on, guys? It's Yugi Bros, and today I'm bringing you another top 5. This time it's the 5 most impactful cards I feel are from the new Streets of Battle City box. Now, I understand there are a lot of cards in this box that can be impactful, so we're going to go off generic ones today. I feel like I'm going to do a separate video for like specific in-archetype cards, since there's a lot. And as I said before, there are so many cards in this set. Reversible Beetle that I said in the last wildcard video, the more I test the card, the more I think it's just a solid side deck card in everything. There was actually a few commenters, so shoutouts to them for saying the same thing, because the more we mess with that card, the more it's crazy. But this time we're going to go top 5 most impactful, and obviously, to no one's surprise, and the thumbnail included, we're going to start out with Maraud Captain. This is a level 3 warrior earth effect monster with 1200 attack, 400 defense, but that's not the biggest part of this card. Aside from the fact that you can rota it, it also says monsters your opponent controls cannot target warrior monsters except this one for attacks. And so in a warrior deck by itself, they're just forced to hit this, which is crazy. It protects your other warriors. And in addition to that, the big effect that this card has always been known for is when this is normal summoned, you can special summon any level 4 or lower monster from your hand. Doesn't even have to be a warrior. This has a plethora of options, a plethora of different ways you can abuse it. Obviously, when Synchros and XYZs, if they ever do get added to Speedles, ever come, this will present a lot more options there. But even just on the assumption of, let's take a deck like the Duelingbook deck that's been battered by the ban list, right? Now let's put Marauding Captain on there. Let's go normal Marauding effect summon Duelingbook. You just dropped 2 monsters for the price of 1, and let's say Jirai swings over their opponent's monster, because 22 is usually getting over 1 monster. It doesn't matter if you flip heads or tails, then you punch for another 12 with Marauding Captain. Oh, guess what? They've probably taken a decent chunk of life, and because Speedles is only 4,000, Marauding Captain adds a lot of speed consistency to the game. So I think this is a hell of an addition, and obviously it bolsters warrior decks as well. But you're going to see this card probably in a lot of different decks going forward. The next one, to also no one's surprise, is the quick play spell known as Antimagic Arrows. As soon as this card got revealed, we all went crazy. This quick play spell says at the start of the battle phase, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, neither player can activate spell, trap cards, or their effects. Neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. So 2 huge things here. 1, as soon as you activate this, no one's responding to it, similar to how Super Poly works. And 2, as soon as this is live, cards like Widespread Ruin, cards like Wall of Disruption, all of a sudden become meaningless, right? Because they can't activate anything for the rest of the turn. It includes you too. It says neither player can activate spells and traps, but like, essentially, you know you have this, you're gonna do everything preemptively. Let's say they have like a face down Zoma that they're waiting to flip for the right attack that you're gonna do on them, right? You go to battle phase, you have turn player priority, you activate this first, no one can respond to it, all of a sudden the Zoma's dead. If they had a Nightmare Wheel they were waiting to use if you were gonna attack, all of a sudden that's dead. Negate attack, Security Orb, Magician's Circle, which might come up more often, Just Die Break, like, the list goes on and on for the amount of things. Forceful Checkpoint, Kunai with Chain, like, anything with Attack Declaration, Draining Shield even, right? This card shuts it all down. And all of a sudden, just like that, we now have a card that rivals Jinzo in the playability that you'd use it in to stop them from doing some of the most powerful cards in Speed Duels. It's so good, right? It's so good. It's going to be scary for sure. I could spend a whole video on just Antimagic Arrow, so I'm going to move on here. The third one on this list is a bit of a wild card. Probably would replace this with the Reversible Beetle. However, I feel like if you're bringing this in, if you're not maining it, there's a very good reason for it, and that's Reflect Bounder. So this card is a level 4 light machine, 17 attack, 1000 defense. It says before damage calculation, if this card is being attacked by an opponent's monster and was in attack position at the start of the damage step, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attacking monster's attack. If you do, after damage calculation, destroy this card. So this is kind of a double-edged sword, right? If they want to punch this, they're going to take the damage of their full monster's attack points. Downside is this will die at the end of the damage step. So the downside to this card is anything can punch this. It doesn't matter if it's getting over it or not. It's going to die at the end of the damage step. So you could have like something like an old Vindictive swing into it. You'll take 450, but then Bounder dies. The upside though is that if they're playing big monsters, this is a really good defense. This also becomes like a shock absorber almost, like for cards like Offerings of the Doomed and Book of Moon. Like if they don't want to deal with this card, they'll have to waste spell and traps to get rid of it, or monster effects to get rid of it, to not take damage. It's like a fair Zoma the Spirit. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's what it is, right? The downside also is that it does take up your normal summon unless you have a way to special summon it out. If it was a dark machine, we could do crazy things with the Heavy Metal Raiders, but we can't do that. Regardless, I think this card will be interesting, to say the least. I don't know if it will see a whole lot of play, but like I had Reversible Beetle on the wild card list, I'm going to put this here because thinking about it going forward, we'd probably reverse them. But until that time comes, I'm just waiting to see if somebody finds a way to break this card. The fourth card on the list is Emergency Provisions. This is a quick play spell that says send any number of other spell and trap cards you control to the grave, gain 1,000 life points for each card sent this way. So, little known fact with this card, it is a quick play, right? Meaning you can chain it to activated spell and traps that you would do. So if you're like activating Reinforcements of the Army, right? Chain, they don't have a response, you can chain Provisions, send the Rhoda to the graveyard, gain 1,000 off the Rhoda, and then Rhoda still resolves, because that's how that works. You can't do it as much with continuous cards. If you're like activating a 10 key, you can't chain Provisions, send the 10 key because it's continuous, so it would have to resolve correctly and be on the field. But this is super effective with like normal spells, normal traps. The other thing with Provisions is in Speed Duels, the max you're going to get off of this normally is like 2 to 3k. 2k because the two other zones that are open, 3k if you send a field spell. You could get more than that if you have like a trap monster in the monster zone, because that still counts as a spell trap. But realistically, you're going to get like a max of 2,000 off of this. But that's still 2,000. We don't have a whole lot of ways to gain life in this game. I'd be interested to see if like something like Vampires could benefit off this card, because before they were using Golden Ladybug to gain their 500 back every turn, and that's still really good, but like this is a quick and easier way to like gain more and faster. Another thing with it though is it gets spell and traps off the field to trigger certain effects, right? So in the case of like Cyber Network, where it says if it's sent from the field to the grave, special summon as many of your banished light machines as possible, you could do something like that. You could also send Magic Formula is a worse example, but Formula does say if it's sent from field to grave, you can gain 1,000 life. Sometimes triggering cards like that is just giving you extra advantage, and then Provisions also gives you 1,000 per card you sent. So it's another thing to use with it, but we'll definitely have to test around with it to see what we can do. I expect to see this in a decent amount of side decks, just because it's a quick and easy life gain card that like you can technically pay no advantage for outside of it just being the card itself. But again, it probably will only come up in something that like you can really gain a lot off of. Crystal Beasts is something that I could see this reign supreme in, just because like they all go to the spell and trap zone. So if you want to gain a quick amount of life and you don't have like the Raigeki or the Conclave, you just Provisions your monsters, up to 2 of them, and you just gain that much life. But we'll see where it goes. The last card on the list is a level 6 light spellcaster named Chaos Command Magician. I think this card is really underrated. 2,400 attack points and 19 defense points. Pretty good stat line all around. Says it negates any monster effects that target this one card. So, Old Vindictive Magician, Man-Eater Bug, Destiny Hero Doomlord, Brachios, Armed Dragon level 5. The list goes on, and by that I quite literally mean Night Assailant, New Doria, Sea Koala, Gale Lizard, Exiled Force, Kaiser Glider. Like, any one card, man, they ain't doing anything to this. Just negates it straight up. And it's not once per turn, it's just a continuous effect. So this thing dodges a lot of cards. I understand we had the form of Dark Ruler Hades to like negate things that killed by battle, but I feel like this is a bit more interesting because it just stands there and negates things. So if they even try to like flip a monster on their turn and try to target it, well, it's just getting negated through if it's a monster effect. It's also a spellcaster. There's been a lot of spellcaster support as of late. Too bad he's not dark, because then summoning it off Dark Renewal would be crazy. But regardless, for the people that try to make Monarchs a deck in Speed Duels with like Grand Marg and Dark Red Enchanter, this might be an interesting card to tech as well. So we'll definitely have to wait and see. But guys, those are my 5 impactful cards of this set. Let me know in the comments down below if I missed any. Believe me, I did. There's so many cards to choose from, it's really hard for me to choose 5 off of this list. Like I said, Reflect Bounder is probably the worst of the 5 here, but if you could swap it with the Reversible Beetle, from my wildcards list, they definitely coincide with each other there, for sure. But let me know for sure, because I know I'm missing some, and I know there's definitely some sleepers that I haven't thought of yet, and like this box is crazy, and I can't wait to keep continuing testing more and more stuff. So guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
For more amazing speed duel content, subscribe to Yu-Gi Bros. It's time to duel!